Good morning, afternoon, and evening. Welcome back to the Liberal Artist Podcast. I am your host, Bodio. With me, I have Kaylie Horowitz.
Hello.
And Andy Gibson.
It's a bit of a shad time, innit?
Okay, we're just going right away with this. All right,
yeah.
cool.
Let them goof, I say.
Sorry.
Let them goof.
Usually we start this. I ask everybody how's a week been. We do a life update, and then we fucking yes and until my brain explodes.
World events have taken precedence this week.
Right. Well, as opposed to that,
you mean D23, right?
Yes,
obviously.
absolutely. New D&D. No, as opposed to that, I kind of want to start a conversation before we get into our main one.
Oh, spicy. All right.
Because of our main topic today, I've been thinking a lot about what it means for a piece to be good, right? And specifically in terms of like an art piece, right? So to get to where I'm going, I have to do a lot of explanation for some of our listeners who may not know about the thing that I'm going to use as an example. So,
explain away.
Yeah, Kaylie Gibby, please goof as is necessary, so it's not me going on a rant.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this year, much like many people, I went all in, balls deep into Elden Ring, right?
Yes, of course.
For those who don't know, Elden Ring is the 7th of a quote-unquote series by a Japanese company called From Software, where the main premise is super dark fantasy. Game is very difficult, and you're supposed to like run into walls over and over and over again until you learn hard enough just to succeed, right?
Break the walls down!
Or you actually acquire some maidens, and then
or you get some maidens.
You don't need to play the game anymore.
Yeah,
Yes.
why do I have to deal with anything about this if like I'm no longer maidenless?
Exactly.
Right.
One of the key draws to this series is their way of storytelling, which the best way I've heard it explained is it's like a guy explaining a book to you that he read 5 years ago in his fourth language.
That's a very specific description, though.
Well, and if you know about the series, they don't tell the story directly.
Oh, no, they
you
don't.
You have to do a lot of finding items and finding items and finding items and reading their descriptions. And then it says, hey, this is connected to this, and this guy had emotions to this thing. And then you find that person's corpse, and you're like, oh, that was that guy, right?
Oh, right. They are dead.
Yeah, and you spend hours and hours on YouTube watching people who have used their precious time to record themselves and talk about these things with a hefty amount of speculation every time, right?
Oh, so this is why the ring is Elden.
Right, exactly. But the reason I bring up Elden Ring is because people really enjoy that style of storytelling, because it like brings a community together, and it feels like you're putting the puzzle pieces together. You find an item, and then you play for 20 hours. Then you find an item, and it's like, wait, didn't I see that guy's name before? And then you realize you sold that item for souls because it doesn't work for your build, and you're like, well, shit, whatever.
Fuck.
Then you do what we all did, look it up online.
How else am I supposed to like buy this super sweet war pick that nobody else uses?
Right, that scales off arcane when I have a faith build. And I'm like, cool.
So what? I'm smart enough
I guess I'm
for
just
this.
bad. Right. Elden Ring gets a lot of credit for having a particularly, quote, good story. Partially because it has FromSoft's resume backing it, and also George R.R. Martin of Game of Thrones fame.
Games of Thrones,
fire and ice and dragons and stocks.
It was originally a Game of Thrones, but now we've expanded into sequels
and prequels.
He came in and did a lot of the bones and character pitches, and they say he wrote the story, but you could play the game. It's like, he maybe wrote some of this. Right?
He wrote a lot of this. I'm not sure that like he's the one deciding that Morgoth is actually Morgoth and it's actually Mel.
there's a lot of people who use fake names and they expect you to like care, but it's like, I pulled in on the boat this morning, y'all. I didn't know who you were anyway.
Right. It's like watching Spider-Man No Way Home going, this was directed by Sam Raimi, and then being like, oh, these are the parts that were directed by Sam Raimi.
Right.
Versus the rest of the
movie. But the central premise of the game is the world the game is in, the lands in between, is fucked up because the old queen removed death from the lands in between. So now people can't die, and there's all kind of stagnation. The world is falling apart. Zombies are just kind of limping around looking for things that they forgot that they're looking for. They're really not. They're all suffering at night. At night, they're constantly screaming, and nobody really knows why.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not
a bad
chillin'.
time. It's bad times for everybody.
He scream.
But the problem is there is a lot of death in the game, right? Not so much in that your main character, you know, you die, you come back, you die, you come back. When you come back, or when you heal or whatever, or when you reset your resources, all the enemies come back. It's like, undeath. But when you kill a boss, they don't come back. There's one boss whose whole thing is like, hey, he was fighting a really strong lady, and then she set off a magic nuke to beat him, but it didn't kill him, so now he's brain dead, and we gotta kill him so he's not suffering anymore, giving a Viking's death. But I thought death didn't exist here anymore. Yeah, it does, but for this, every side character you meet, they die at the end. There's a whole group of people whose whole point is, we're killing people who want to get the Elden Ring just to fuck over the gods. It's like, but I thought death didn't exist here. It does for our purposes. What? So,
what?
I say
Did
all
this
this
make
because,
more sense when it was in Japanese?
No.
Oh, good.
So, and that's why I think that there is a discernible difference between a quote unquote quality story and a quote unquote good story, because I do think Elden Ring, with all its twists and turns and interlinked lore, is a very high quality story. But unless the lore monsters are listening to our podcast, please tweet at us. Let me know if I'm missing something.
is coming to kick your ass.
You can bring it. But unless I'm like missing something central to the plot, it's like your central premise is flawed. Therefore, I can't call this product good. You know, that was a lot for me to get to where I was going. But what do y'all think about like the intersection between high quality and like good art, quotations?
In a historical precedent, there's an actually really interesting conversation about that as it relates to like popular media and like pulp writing, popular fiction, the novel, stuff like that has always had this twinge of critical disdain because all of these people like it, so it's low tier common garbage.
Right.
Like it's just what's gonna feed the masses whatever they want. I was listening to like brief kind of scary authors history, like TikTok. I'm talking about Edgar Allan Poe, who died in very relative obscurity because Americans didn't like his work, broadly speaking. But he had a huge fan base abroad. But because he never left the country and like capitalized on that in his time, he didn't really leave much of an impact until the next generation, like within 20 years, 30 years, went, this was sick. Y'all didn't like this?
Some Bruce Lee shit. Yeah.
It's just making me think of Back to the Future, where he's just like, I guess you're not ready for that. But your kids are gonna love it. Your kids
are gonna love it. Yes, absolutely. And like same with I guess the Kate Bush phenomenon because of Stranger Things. Like I mean, it was a good song at its time, but now it's taken on a whole new life because of Gen Z really vibing with Kate Bush.
Right.
So I think there's certainly an argument that like we as sort of humans like understanding and trying to make sense of things that we feel and experience and put that into some form of story. I think there's a lot more out there that is actually really good quality that just doesn't get either the big platform to like stand out and be like, oh, cool, that look at this thing. More people should see this. Like it either never gets the opportunity for that, or it is constantly competing with things that are trying desperately and have means and money and publicity to take up that space.
Right.
That probably don't deserve to be in that space.
Those things take up all the quote good. So the things of high quality don't necessarily get that moniker. You know what I mean?
And I've heard there's a lot of people that follow like webtoon comics. Like I personally don't. I've been debating getting into some, but there are some people that are like, there's great pieces of work on here. I'm like, not Hades Town, LOL. Lore Olympus. I'm just like Hades and Persephone again, but the other one.
Yeah, I have heard of Lore Olympus.
Like Lore Olympus, I've heard is fantastic, and there's some other really great standout series on Webtoon. But then once you get past the like 10 main titles that Webtoon likes to brag about, you really have to start digging to find the things of like as good tier quality, I think, storytelling wise. There's some beautiful like illustrations and beautiful like works of art that you can find, but I think as far as looking for that story, then you got to start digging between what just looks pretty and what is actually compelling to keep following through.
Right.
So I think that when you say quality versus good, like what registers in my mind is quality more so on the technical aspects, good more so on the connection aspects.
Right.
Like you were saying with Elden Ring. Quality, yes, it's got one of the biggest authors in the game. It has incredibly flowery but also brutal language, the way that it presents itself. The way that it showcases itself through story structure and everything. But at the end of the day, after, 80 hours of play, I
only 80 hours?
Yeah, I only put 80 hours in. I only did one run, and after the last couple bosses, I just said, I'm good.
Yeah. Gibby did not want to finish. I had to bully Gibby into finishing this
It
game.
made me very angry, and I love the Dark Souls series.
And he loves Dark Souls.
I was into it before Bo and most of our friends were, but I digress. I wouldn't say that it was a good story because I never felt much connection.
Yeah.
Partly because I wasn't always clear on it, but also partly because there weren't characters this time that I felt like, hey, I know you, or hey, I like you a lot. Like Solaire, the boy, the sun boy.
Right. Praise the
sun. Grossly incandescent. Like they're just aspects that I couldn't connect with. And I think that's what detracts from it for me. When it comes to a good story or good art, like as we say here, I think the biggest thing is...
As we say around these parts.
As we say, that's some real good art. I think what it really is, did I understand what message you were trying to tell? Did I feel some sort of bond with characters or want to see them succeed? At the very least, did I get the message? And just good art is not always, I don't always love every piece of good art. Like I've used this example many times. Moulin Rouge is not something that I enjoy, but it's something I now respect, that I would say is good art because I understand what they were going for. And what they wanted to do with the medium that they chose. But for the most part, I can usually appreciate the things that we set as good art because I can say, when the painter made this, I I can feel the emotions that he or she was trying to evoke within this piece. When I watched this movie, I got their intent. It might have taken me a while to figure it out, but eventually, after, rewatching here or there, or looking at some critical analysis of it, now I start to really catch on to it. If I can't really tell what the idea was, and all your media is technical wizardry or some more of the more flash in without the like core, the sizzle without the steak. Yeah, right. It's just never going to be something I connect with.
But where's the steak? What's sizzling on the grill if there's no steak?
The steak is feelings, and also I will not apologize that I like my steak medium well. It's who I am. It's
Ew,
yeah.
What?
I don't care. I don't like to have to chew for 40 minutes to get through one bite. It's still got medium on it. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, deal with that, kids. Yeah. Welcome to my life. It's a scary place. Ever since I figured
it out.
Place. It's a place with bad steak. It's a place with very, very bad steak.
Okay.
Overcooked steak.
No. I like what's actually medium. Okay. But when I ask for medium at a restaurant, they give me rare. And then I'm just like, God damn it, I'm not happy.
Then you don't know what medium is.
I guess I don't. I guess I'm just
is
living.
Medium good or is it quality?
Mid.
Damn, medium is mid. Like that steak.
Firm but with little give. Yep, these are medium rare.
What if somebody wants theirs well done?
We ask them politely yet firmly to leave.
My journey of steak has taken me into the unknown. And speaking of,
okay, yeah. Let's get it. Enter.
And it seems like you've been leading this conversation to a very specific question. Does it have anything to do with Over the Garden Wall?
Editor Gibby, play that piano solo that they start every episode with.
Fuck yeah, I will.
Hell yeah, we're doing Over the Garden Wall. I know this is something that Gibby is like super, super passionate about. Has been for a few years. Gibby, take the reins, man.
Oh my goodness.
Go for it.
Over the Garden Wall is a 2014 animated miniseries for Cartoon Network. It debuted in the fall, and if it isn't what autumn and fall are all about, I don't know what is. It's created by Patrick McHale, who was on the creative team for both Flapjack and Adventure Time. It's the story of Wirt and Gregory, who are two brothers trapped in the fantastical and terrifying place known only as the unknown. It weaves between eras, it weaves between styles, ranging from fun and whimsical love letters to the 1920s to terrifying and horrifying visages of the purgatory of the unknown itself. And I fucking love it. I love it so much. How Bo feels about Full Metal Alchemist, I feel about Over the Garden Wall. The first time I saw it...
This is your Full Metal.
Yes, it is. The first time I saw it, I just went, that is the thing that I like. That I like
so very much. Did you watch it during its initial premiere, like during that? Because they premiered episodes from November 3rd to the 7th, if I remember correctly. Like it was over the course of a week. It was doing basically.
It like every day, right? They were doing a new episode.
No, I saw it, I think about a year or two later, at most two.
Gotcha.
And I heard about it through Tumblr because that's where I was in 2015 or so. I saw a couple of stills from it and a couple of jokes from it, and I was just like, that's fucking funny. I'm going to go check it out.
Oh my God. I remember Gregory gift sets were everywhere following the premiere of that show.
Just the kid and his little tea kettle, with his elephant
and his
costume.
Frog.
And his frog, President
Kitty, George Washington, Ben Franklin,
Jason Thunderburker.
Jason Thunderburker, yeah.
Yes, the frog with many names.
Precisely. I think probably where I first saw it was sometimes Cartoon Network and other folks who have YouTube channels will put the first episode on YouTube as a preview, like the first one in full. So I got to see that, and I was attracted to the gothic nature of it, but also kind of the childlike whimsy of it at the same time. I feel like it blends those two things together really well, where I think there's something cool about media that's aimed more towards kids, but is still accessible by adults, in that kids like to be a little bit scared. Like, kids like to feel just like the pangs of fear.
Why do you think we kept coming back to Courage the Cowardly Dog
Facts. Yeah.
night after night?
Yeah, kids enjoy the sensation of like, oh shit, something's coming, something is scary. Like, there's a beast. Yeah, apparently there's a beast, and then you just run off into like the woods, just going like, "There's a fucking beast out here!" Like, and I think they enjoy like a light sense of foreboding. I don't think kids are out here to come like watch the Saw movies or anything like that, but I think they really
maybe
like.
not Saw.
There's a reason why kids love Halloween, and it's not just the candy and the costumes and everything. It's
mostly the candy and the costumes.
That's what it's still like 80% minimum.
I'm still here for the candy and the costumes.
I'm still here for the candy and the costumes.
We like it because our media gets just a little bit spookier.
Right. Well, no, and it's the like, we're so, and I mean, maybe this is a contemporary issue because for a very long track record, like media, anything for children was a rare occurrence other than like a softer, gentler kind of fairy
Some
tale
fucking
or moral
Franklin the
story.
Turtle bullshit.
Yeah, but like, I'm like, just narratively, children's stories were always cautionary tales.
Right.
Which, like, Over the Garden Wall draws a lot of inspiration from, like,
Grimm
older
Brothers.
fairy tales and fables and Grimm Brothers. Exactly. Like, there's a lot of stuff that they draw inspiration from. But a lot of, like, children's media, whatever you would call it, was not, like, made for childlike whimsy. It was to tell your son to stop running into the goddamn woods in the middle of the night so that, like, he will come home and you can continue to help your family plow the fields because that's what you all do.
Precisely.
Not get eaten by things.
Or else Doc Brown will come at you with the lantern and start screaming at you.
Boys, the beast is upon you, and we have to go back to the future.
What have you done?
I took my axe and I killed your brother, and I sounded just like this.
Now go
Yes.
chop down trees.
What? But no, so then we have like a hard pivot when we start making a lot of television programming for children where we're like, oh, we should like help cultivate like young minds and like use this as a learning opportunity. And there's a lot of really good like gentler, softer, considered things that start getting thrown into children's programming that suddenly it's very overcrowded with like, there's no violence. There's no bad implied things. It is soft, it is fluffy, and it's educational. That exactly. There's only a few times a year where we can start like towing the line with some like creepier and scarier things because exactly kids fucking love to be scared or pretend to be scared by things and just chase each other around the yard.
And I think conversely to the everything has to be a moral tale.
Yeah.
The other thing that you see in modern times a lot is producers or creators will say, hey, kids are fucking stupid.
Yeah.
So our thing has to be very, very loud and bright and always screaming at them, right?
Yes.
So you have to have like the Trolls movie or the Emoji movie or
because singing killed my grandma.
Right. Things that don't really challenge like perception or what expectations. It's just constantly saying, hey, look at this, now look at this, now look at this. But like Kaylie was saying, it's the things that actually like ask you to think about things, or the things that ask you to feel in situations that are the things kids like gravitate to. But those are also like a lot harder to make,
It's
Yeah.
a harder sell, especially if you don't expect a whole lot of merchandise to get sold.
But how does this make money?
How can we make money off of art?
Exactly. And Over the Garden Wall is both, it draws a lot of inspiration from those child's fairy tales without ever veering too much into and that's why you don't pretend to be Cinderella or else you'll get your toes chopped off. Like, it never goes fully into that. It's more of an exploration of that style while also being a lot quieter than your average programming on Cartoon Network. And I'm not saying that every show on Cartoon Network at the time was like full on, Uncle Grandpa or anything like that.
Because most of them were.
Well,
like even the quote good ones were when it came down to things.
This is true. Just because regular show was very relaxed for the first 4 minutes doesn't mean that like the rest of them.
There's always the back half.
No.
Well, I was gonna say regular show would always pitch itself as the whoa show, even though there was actually a lot of nice nuance and storytelling in that. Or Adventure Time would develop a lot of really fantastic, like, world building, nuance in its characters and building relationships. But how was it always advertised? Mathematical!
Yeah.
Like, again, super loud, super colorful.
Smacking people in the face.
Yeah, like very, very low slapstick kind of humor in that marketing.
It's kind of hard to market like yourself as that when you're working with a property like Over the Garden Wall, that like unless you're showing like spoilers of all the action scenes here or there, like it's so much more of a relaxed property. It's so much more of an exploration, kind of more like a storybook. That's partly why I think they open up all the title cards. Looks like you're flipping through pages of like a vintage book that like your grandparents would have had as kids to start. And this isn't to say that like the whole thing is just like, oh, verily, forsooth, we must travel through. No, like Wirt and Greg are very normal kids. Wirt is a moody, like poetry writing, like teenager who's very insecure.
Played by Elijah Wood.
Yes.
So like that kind of tells you a lot already.
Like he's
of what his character is like.
He's really starting to lose like a lot of the like childlike tendencies that you see in Gregory. Like he'll still like go off and do something once in a while just for fun or to like be defiant, but Gregory is still full on in the throes of childhood where nothing can hurt him, like nothing's that serious. He doesn't really have any logic to anything. He just goes and does things. He's impulsive in a very fun way. And then there's Beatrice, sweet Beatrice the Bluebird, who is done with everybody's shit.
Who's just a bitch for no reason.
She's got turned into a bird. Can you blame her?
Yes.
Yeah, like she got turned into a bird and she's mad because she's also a teenager and has that angst and turned her whole family into bluebirds because she's got self-loathing and everything. And she's always tense because she knows what's coming at the end of like the journey for the three of them. Like I know she's snippy and sarcastic, but I kind of like having that edge, somebody that's a bit more active than like Wirt, who's a little bit more passive, and then Gregory, who's just chaotic. Is absolute chaos right there. So those are our principal characters, as well as I'm sure later on we'll talk about the Beast.
You're gonna talk about my boy Fred the horse.
Yes,
Fred the stealing horse.
That's the clip. That's the clip of why I decided to start watching the show.
That is also the joke that got me to watch it back in 2014 or 2015.
Hey guys, I want to steal
I want to steal.
Oh, I fucking love it.
Fred's a horse. He could talk. He could do whatever he wants.
Right, he can talk. He can do whatever he wants.
Fred!
Hilarious. So tell me what you guys think about the aesthetic of like the art direction of the style, anywhere from like characters to environments to like animals and everything about it. Like what comes to mind when you think about that? Kaylie looks deep in thought, so we'll start with her.
It's the like, I think the iconography of this show is one of the biggest draws as far as why people become interested in it. Episode 2, the pumpkin people is the one that I think gets plastered around the internet the most.
Yeah.
And it's horrifying. And you always think it's about to get like really sinister. Like it already, like, if you've ever seen a horror movie,
Yeah.
you know right off the bat when they walk into the barn and there's pumpkin people, like you are waiting for someone's gonna die.
Yeah.
Like this is cult shit, something's gonna happen. And over the course of the episode, it's charming, but still approaches further and further into uncomfortable and unsettling until nothing, like spoilers, nothing bad happens at the end. But it, without having to get gruesome, it does not like keep it keeps its thumb down on you as far as feeling like something's gonna happen. Something is about to happen here.
Like uneasy is the best word for
into
it.
that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that sets the tone for the rest of the series very well. And then, like, exactly every episode is a different, like, homage either to a specific kind of fable or style or era.
Mm-hmm.
So every episode is very marked very nicely by, like, this is the Frogs on the Steamboat episode. This is the Georgian Manor with Fred the Stealing Horse. This is the Tavern of colonial folks.
And I'm the highwayman.
Yeah, I'm the highwayman. So every episode has a very clear, like, demarcation of, like, this is where we are. These are the people that we're with this time. And we'll see where it goes from there. And it is a lot of people's, I think, favorite fall comfort media.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, like, just beautiful, like, woods, fall, autumnal, like, imagery that just is
that
gorgeous to
Yeah.
look
Autumnal?
at.
It's the autumnal season.
Yeah.
It's my
Look at that.
favorite way to
Um,
talk about fall. Yeah.
No, it's a lot of my friends are like this. And you're one of them. Like September, there's a whiff of fall in the air.
Do you
break out-
smell the scholastic book fairs?
Right, break out the pumpkin pie candles. Let me get a cup of cider and put on over the garden wall.
Exactly.
is like the mandated ritual.
Is that leaf yellow? Fall! Fall for
it's
me!
time.
Right.
But no, there's a lot of beautiful images per each episode. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just a, like, oh, this one moment. Like, every episode
There's a
has
screensaver in every episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest appeals. When you try to convince somebody, well, why should I watch this? There's a lot to take in over all 10 episodes that are only like 10 minutes long each. So you can get a lot in with very little time.
Like John
relatively
Mulaney
speaking.
once said, it's an hour. It's an hour.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are worse ways to spend an hour and 10 minutes. Right before I ask Bo the same question, I do want to make one mark about the Highwayman, because when I watched the episode Songs of the Dark Lantern, everything was going fine and calm and nice and easy.
Four?
Four, yeah, roughly
Episode
4 or 5, right around the midpoint. It just interrupts the middle of an introduction to all these other characters, where this little, like, grungy looking Snow White dwarf guy just comes up like, I'm the highwayman. And they just stare at him for a second right before his song kicks in. And when I was watching it for the first time, it scared the absolute shit out of me.
I thought he was going to start killing people.
Because no,
Like, straight up. I was like, oh,
because
this is how
the
they
way
die.
he was moving and the way he was dancing, I had never seen a rotoscoped animation before, and it hit such an uncanny valley moment to me. I freaked the fuck out. It's only a 20-second clip.
It was a reference to that rotoscoped, or not rotoscope, but that ghost dancing.
Yes, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
The same studio that does like Betty Boop did like videos.
Fleischer Studios.
Yes. They did videos for like the Minnie the Moocher music video with like the walrus that's moving in a really human way. That shit in 2015 was my biggest fear, that a rotoscoped walrus was gonna come get me. I was just like, you shouldn't be moving like that. You're not people. You're not. It was. I had never felt Uncanny Valley like so strongly before. It freaked me the fuck out.
I'll knock you out, drag you off the road, steal your shoes from off your feet, and then highway man, when I'm making
Bo, your thoughts on like the style and aesthetic?
Yeah, I'm always impressed when somebody's able to make a piece that's like really dark in like its environments, but it still manages to be colorful.
Yeah.
Like after like the first like it's very brown to start. But after like the first
the leaves
like
and the plants are dying. It's fall.
But after the first 2 episodes, when they lean, they're not making a sales pitch anymore, so they don't have to like be very loud anymore.
Yeah.
And they can lean a little heavier into the ridiculousness of the world that they're in. And they start bringing in the animals that are just in like colonial dress and manage to like brighten up a ton of scenes.
The animal school is so cute, but so creepy at the same time.
I never got any creepy out of it. It's very Richard.
I got a little creepy out of it.
It's very Richard.
Richard scary.
It's very rich. Is it Scary or Scary? I've never been sure.
It's scary, but I'm also from the South, so
I don't.
Richard Scary.
I genuinely don't know. That's always the episode where I'm like, all right, this is a good one, but like it's very much like the lightest of all of them because it's just got some guy in a gorilla costume. Like I never got the creepy out of that one.
And I did want to comment.
I don't think the gorilla suit. I thought I was doing a pretty good job.
I don't think horrifying. I don't think I ever got to horrifying. Definitely unsettling is what I got a lot, which is fine. Because I think a legit scary show is much harder to sell.
Yeah,
something in the same vein of Courage the Cowardly Dog, which is kind of like peak children's horror.
Yeah.
I never got those. There was no Return the Slab. There was no You're Not Perfect moments. But
thanks, bathtub eel.
Yeah, but I think just like visually, it's everybody kind of looks like Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy dolls, but it still has like that flapjack aesthetic,
like which triangle nose.
Yeah, with the triangle noses.
Triangular circle,
very neat.
Are you triangle nose or are you circle nose? This is more.
What's your gender?
Are you like round Simpson eyes or are you like lifeless pumpkin eyes?
You could really tell like this was absolutely. There's a lot of descendants of people that worked on like Flapjack or Chowder, like merging again into other like later descended projects through time, and you could absolutely tell this was a Flapjack person because it's not dude. Like it's softer, like it's not trying to be like gory and disgusting, and it's like softer in that cell of how it's scary and unsettling, but it has those moments of like, this is the same kind of uncomfy energy I would get from certain episodes of Flapjack.
Like, all it's missing are like the super detailed gross out shots.
Yes, I fucking hate those.
Like they're the worst.
They're the worst. Like the thing about Over the Garden Wall is that a lot of the designs of characters can be unsettling and uneasy and like just a little uncanny. Lots of unwords today. Oh, Auntie Whispers.
I thought I was over Auntie Whispers, and rewatching it, I was like, no, I'm not over this. It still gives me the heebie-jeebies.
But there's never anything that I would call ugly. And that's the difference between it and a lot of Cartoon Network shows that relied on like close-up, gross-out freakouts and all that. Like it's part of why I never got into Flapjack, even as a kid and everything. It just never really appealed to me. Like everything I would say is still like storybook. Everything I would still say is aesthetically pleasing. Well, outside of one particular shot that I might talk about a little later.
Gee, I wonder what still frame you're
I
talking
wonder
about.
which one that could be.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it now. No reason to hold
Yes.
back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shit.
No, I was gonna say, speaking of the gross out, style that Flapjack does with its hyper realism, I think this is the one moment where Patrick was like, "Can we please, like, just one?
Let's scare
just
some
one in
fucking
this show."
kids." The beast. The beast.
There is only me. There is only my way. There is only the forest, and there is only surrender.
I think like the Beast might be my favorite villain in almost all media because he is not in a lot of it. And for 99.9% of his screen time, he is in shadows. He is only a silhouette. So you only get a small look at him the whole time. And you start to think, what is this guy? He's got like a humanoid head, but he's got like deer antlers that stretch out and in way too long for any average deer. He's got some
I love Hollow Knight.
Yeah, he's got some sort of odd like body that looks like it's covered in some furry cloak or something, but his legs are just so slender and skinny. And I think they do a great job of keeping him mysterious and his intentions vague. Mm-hmm. And because we never get a clear-cut answer on anything, that's what makes him so spooky. And he has that deep voice. Oh, okay. All right. Tell me about your thoughts on him.
If you're gonna tell a story, tell me the story. That's all I
know.
have to say
It's
about that.
what
I don't have anything else to say about that.
It is absolutely you're right, and that is, I think, overall with story your biggest pet peeve. But I think we get enough details to make more of things out. In that, like, obviously, towards the end, we find out that the way that he's been manipulating people has been a falsehood, and that he is not as powerful as we are led to believe. When you finally bring something scary into the light, it's almost never as unsettling. Well, except the one frame of him who looks to be made of the Edelwood trees, which he uses to get people to light the lantern that are, spoiler, made of people's souls.
He's an ent. He's a scary ent.
Yeah.
There's the plot twist.
Yeah, it's an end. It's also the rewatching it, like looking at his silhouette. I went, they just reinvented the Horned King from the Black Cauldron.
Similar, similar.
They just did this design again and gave him bigger antlers.
Similar. Maybe I'm just a big fan of like antler villain. Maybe that's just.
No, it's a good trope. It's a good trope.
Yes. I just love.
Look at Has Been Hotel and Alistair.
I've been looking up because my brain didn't even process what he had looked like.
Yeah.
No, it's so fast. And that was one of the big things that Tumblr went fucking nuts for this when that final episode premiered, because of course somebody went and like immediately had to get the screen cap of like this like 1 second of frame.
Tell me they didn't try to fuck him like they fucked Bill Cipher.
Oh, you absolutely know that this was a monster fucker, like Tumblr sexy man.
Tumblr wanted to have sex with the one-eyed pyramid dude.
Yeah.
Yes.
They humanized him and they fucked
Falls.
his brains out. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
there is, I believe, a like wiki of like which characters under what tags they've been like either humanized or tagged in fan fiction and shit, and I'm just like, I dare not to tread through that, but I like hearing from other people what that space is like because it interests me and scares me.
I'm just gonna make him a gross old man, so none of the like young Tumblr girls are like, oh, he's just like the Onceler. Oh, he's like Bill Cipher. You're not gonna want to fuck my villains.
Well, there's enough hentai in the world that disagrees with you there, bud.
Good point. Anyway, let's pivot.
Hard pivot.
I want to know y'all's thoughts on the story and the plot, and I assume this will tie in to Bo's original posing of his question. So I want to hear from you, Bo. Tell me more.
Me?
Yes.
I don't like it.
Yes.
No.
Short, sweet, and to the point.
Yep. So spoilers. If you haven't got that
We're
already.
past that point. It's an hour and 10-minute long show. Like,
It's implied.
it's not going to be a huge time investment that you were like, God damn it, I was working on this for 8 months.
I mean, I started, so I first started watching this back in like we said, like 2014, 2015. And I got to like episode 5. I saw the joke that pulled me in, and then something came up and I just never went back. Not because I wasn't enjoying it, but just because I got busy and distracted.
Yeah.
And then 7 years passed. But
7 years later.
but
Oh, right. I should finish this.
so the reason I don't like it is not, it's not to speak on the quality of it, right? I think there's a lot of good here. And I think it's all good. It's all quality. It's all quality. Let me use my verbiage properly. On like a nitpicky note, I've never been a fan of the LOL I'm random characters.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So Gregory is cute, but I don't think he's funny.
And that was peak 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
Of like, we need, if we're going to have a like Debbie Downer kind of sulky like hero every once in a while, then that was the foil, was that we need a mandated.
He's not
LOL
fully
random
obnoxious,
XD.
but
No.
he toes the line.
Yeah. There are moments where I appreciate like when they give Greg the freedom to like, we're exploring his character because he is a kid. And like, this isn't like a choice. It's just sort of who he is as a little human being that are really exciting to explore. And then other moments where I'm like,
it's because he loves his
buddy,
brother, right? And he just wants to like be with him.
Yeah.
But this show has the same issue as Kingdom Hearts, where it wants to. I know. I've just committed a sin. Gibby gave me the worst look.
Fucking dare you.
No, it has the same issue of Kingdom Hearts, whereas it wants to tell this one isolated story, but there's also a through line that it has to stick with. So it slams the plot right at the end where it can. Like,
it does,
right?
yeah.
Like you'll do a whole episode, and the last 30 seconds they'll be like, and here's some plot. Or we'll go all the way from episode 1 to episode 8. And then episode 9 is lore dump the episode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, wait, but there's only 20 minutes of the entire series left. Yup. Here's where you get all your character development. Here's how we got here.
Yeah.
Which is
what was
fine.
it? The hero's octahedral inverted loop.
Get out of here,
from Brian David
BDG.
Gilbert.
Actually, don't get out. I love you. Please stay.
Please come back.
Go back to Polygon. Your
Please.
YouTube is weird, and I miss your
I like
dissection.
his
YouTube is weird and I miss it. Please.
I like his YouTube.
But I'm not a fan of that, and I am also not a fan of it was just the dream stories. But I'm big on if you want to tell me a story, then tell me the story.
Yeah.
And I get the story you wanted to tell, and I get how you want to tell it, which is why I think it's high quality. But also when you're like, it was just a dream, then I'm like, okay, then none of it fucking mattered.
Well,
I wasted my time. Then if you do, no, let me finish. And you go to the epilogue and they're like, oh, here's everybody's endings. And it's like, but none of these people were real. Wart was dying and he was in purgatory and he fucking learned his lesson through almost drowning. None of this was real. I'm pissed off.
Okay, I'll defend against that because in the very first episode, and I didn't clock this again until rewatching it recently because I think the first time I was watching this was like 2 or 3 years ago, and it was just kind of a like sensory overload in some ways of like, what the fuck is where are we? When are we? What the hell? Like just taking it all in. But the first episode has a like brief montage as we're getting dropped into this world of everything that is happening in real life in real time of all of the places and people or whatever locations, fully in reality or not, that we're about to be introduced to for every episode, which I didn't catch that at first.
It's
I'm like, that's brilliant.
but that's also mostly the fantastical world, right?
Yes.
Like it's, it's mostly purgatory.
But except we see the two little boys pushing a little steamboat down a creek that becomes the frogs on the steamboat.
Yeah,
so, like,
but we also see a fish in a boat fishing.
Sure. Yeah, no, like there's some exciting questions.
Guess which
of,
image
like...
my brain attached to, Kaylie?
But I love fishing salmon. No, but there's some really interesting questions exactly of like what is real and tangible versus what is just kind of built up in a weird psychological Alice in Wonderland kind of place.
Which is fine.
But no, and it's exciting.
But I also think
kind
Alice
of
in Wonderland is shit because none of that shit happened. Girl fell in a hole, she passed out, and then she like
one of the
quote
earliest
unquote learned her
isekais,
lesson.
Boys.
Alice in Wonderland is it's not even a real world until a homie was like, "Let me make a sequel to this," and then we get through the Looking Glass. Like, oh, she actually did do all that.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
The original isekai.
Alice, you have a concussion.
World.
What's that?
That's what it was.
Yes. No, she fell asleep. But no, so like there's some exciting questions in that, like what we're shown at the very beginning, and then sort of going through episode by episode of like what is actually happening here. Because most of them, for as weird as they are, I could buy until exactly the sort of back half where suddenly the frogs are all people size or the people have shrunk to frog size.
But I feel like they kind of eased us into that with the third episode with the animal school.
Yeah.
So at that point, they were like, yeah, this is weird, but it can happen. And people accept it by the end of it. So when you bring it back to, yeah, the frogs have an old timey Louisiana style steamboat where you pay 2 pennies to ride it. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Which, side note, I
was
like,
but the president is naked, Kaylie.
so we're talking, so we're making an allegory, and it like sort of again to your idea of like purgatory almost dying. They're like, we have to ride down a ferry and pay 2 pennies.
The second they said that in the 4th episode, I was like, we need 2 pennies to cross the ferry to go see the witch Adelaide. I was like, oh, so they're dead, right?
Yeah,
because
no, and which I think there's a lot of deliberate writing and or imagery that's like, whoa.
And again, that's why I say it's quality, because even off the jump, Wirt and Greg are walking and like, wait, where are we? How did we get here? I just want to go home. So even from that point, them walking through the misty forest into this dark place, like, oh, they're dead. This is purgatory. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how they got there. They are here and they're dealing with it. That's what my brain did.
Yeah, no, and I feel like there's a lot of interesting, I do really like when an author fucks around with like, because it's that like, we want to get to the point so fast that I actually do kind of enjoy when it's done like well, and you're still giving me something to take with me along the way, even if you're going to withhold the information. With that cheeky, like, are they dead? Are they half dead? Like, are they in purgatory? Is it a dream? Are they in a coma? I don't know. But look at these, like, animals in a band. And this woman is, like, everything worked out for this town. Yay! So I'm like, I'm willing to ride with you on that. And I'm still asking questions. Because here, at least, it's like they're purposefully misdirecting every other way. As opposed to we're inconsistent and we don't know what we want. Which is really great.
Again, I think it's very well done.
Yeah.
I just don't like it.
I half agree with you because I really like everything that it starts building up towards. I just realized in this watch, I can't enjoy Wirt. And I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know what
That's crazy.
Because I love Elijah Wood's performance of him. I think he does such a good job with his character.
And
but
you usually have a really easy time attaching to protagonists.
I normally do, and I think it's because he's a bit of a Scott Pilgrim.
Ooh.
He grows a bit more, I think, as a person.
A lot more.
But it really is. Rewatching episode 9, though, finally sealed it in for me of like, this is why I've had such a hard time, like, wanting to root for him to get past his struggles. Because for as anxious as I am as a human being and like always fearing the worst, there is still that like, but nothing has been decided yet. Like, it's what Greg keeps saying the entire time. He's like, but nothing's happened yet. We could still go do something. No, we can't. We can't do anything. And it's that whiny sad boy energy that I'm like, God, I can't get past this. I want to root for you. And the bits of information that we had been fed along the way of like him having to grapple with becoming like a teenager and grow out of childhood, but now he has a stepbrother and like there's some resentment against his dad remarrying. Like, I'm like, shit, why aren't we exploring some of that?
Right.
Why do we have to make it about a girl?
Why did we Kingdom Hearts this and shove it all in the back end? Be like, shit, we have 3 hours left in the game. Plot.
Even if we have 3 hours left in the game, it's the why couldn't the resolution be about that
him and
dynamic?
Gregory, yeah.
Why, or even just like his parents? Why couldn't it have been about that dynamic as a family rather than it was about a girl the whole time?
He asked out the. I don't know how to say this politely. He asks out the not conventionally pretty because she's in face makeup and she's not a cheerleader. She's a mascot.
But like Sarah seems like a great character that it's like, no, I can understand why, like, we could still have this element of like, there's a crush and he doesn't know how to deal with her, but it becomes entirely about her. And this sort of, I like the building of, oh, Jason Funderburker. There's the guy that like calls them out outside the shed, the storage shed. And they're like, oh, fuck, hey, is that him?
Sarah.
Yeah, he's just some nerdy guy. Like, I love that reveal. But then to continuously not address perhaps where Wirt's insecurities as a character are coming from, being tied up in this new family dynamic and sort of things that he's expected to do now, but feels like he can't or can't fit it. Like, it feels like there's a lot in the background that we get that is implied to be directly connected to the family dynamic that never get addressed.
We spend so much time with the brothers that it's weird that in the tail end, it was the whole time it was about Wirt's insecurity with a girl.
Right, which could be part of it. But again,
we should stay focused on the brothers.
Yeah. Or if you want to, because there's a nice allegory of his one of his last lines of like, I don't want to just wander around the woods anymore, which is again like some really nice growth after having said, you know what, we don't have to go back home. We'll stay here. It's fine. We'll just be trapped here forever. And sort of wanting,
and then they drown.
And wanting to not have to deal with that as a sort of like Wendy Darling having to come to terms with leaving the nursery kind of thing. Like, you have to grow up, but growing up doesn't have to be scary and unfun kind of thing. So there's a really nice, like that maybe you could have made the Beast an allegory for like the relationship with his dad or something, or somewhere in that being more of a like why you have to confront this thing that is holding you back or keeping you like from reaching a potential that you like says you can't, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. It's like it almost hits the mark, but like leaves a couple things unaddressed for me that I'm like, fuck.
And one last thing before Gibby beats us with a proverbial stick for dismembering his favorite thing.
Every fucking time. I bring something to the table that I enjoy.
No, we said it was high quality.
I'm kidding.
Yes. It is absolutely, I think, one of the best things Cartoon Network has ever greenlit. Like, it is so good.
Before I let Gibby go in and gush and do as he does, episode 8 was fucking bullshit. The one where they're like dying within purgatory, like the snowstorm comes in, they're sleeping, and it's like all in Greg's head, and it's just like this weird show tune where he's like in heaven. By the time they were like, and Mr. North Wind, I'm laying on my couch in my office. I sit up, right? And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And I skipped the rest of the episode. I didn't care. I was done. I was like, I don't understand what this is. I don't understand what I'm supposed to be getting out of this. This
manipulation. That was the episode.
Very bad. This is very bad show tunes, right? Because I don't know what the vibe is since they have like literal children playing the characters, but they're singing off key, and that's on purpose. Because even the adults are singing off key. I can't understand a goddamn thing they're saying.
All right, I'll admit you're right about
that. Halfway through that, I was just like, I'm done.
The whole thing
and then I skipped to the next one.
Is like Greg's childlike fantasy of like him trying to figure out, you know, if Wirt is giving in and losing his willpower for everything, like it's his interpretation via the medium of like a 1920s like rubber hose style. Well, maybe not fully rubber hose.
It's the Cuphead episode.
It's like the old school animation love letter. I personally think it's a little overindulgent, but when you find out more and more that what it really is the Beast manipulating Greg into like giving himself up as the sacrifice, it makes more sense. It's a bit grating. I'll admit that's not my favorite episode.
It's grating, but like Wo was saying, there's something really creepy that starts building up with all of the super bright like cherubs and clouds in that off-key tone.
Yeah.
It's like the more they keep going, the like again, we start going back into unsettling. And the thing that caught me that was like, I want to know what this is. We cut from like full screen animation as it's happening,
and they keep going,
and then we cut into like a periscope,
like a Nickelodeon.
But we see that there are animals in like an audience, like as if they're watching a film.
Right.
In, like down in the like we see ears sticking up like in
do
that
they
small
explain
circle.
that by
No,
the
they
end?
don't. But it was so creepy. I was
It's
like,
like,
what
why-
is something?
why- exactly.
Well, no,
I'm like, why is
something
this
is
here?
watching. Something is watching this. What's watching him? And then at the end of the episode, we hear him being led away. Like the Beast is calling to him and has disguised himself and has drawn Gregory away.
Right.
That I'm like, oh shit.
Which by the beginning, the second Gregory ascended is like, oh, they fell asleep, a snowstorm came in and they're dying. Right. Like I got that immediately, but then, 6 minutes in, I don't care anymore.
No,
right, get it going.
Basically, I believe I get everything that you guys are saying.
But we're wrong and we're sinners.
No,
We are.
no. I mean, like, why would I say that? Like, you guys like have your own opinions on like media, and this is why we like doing this show. If we agreed on everything, it'd be fucking boring. But like, I'll just trace back a little bit. First, with what Kaylie was saying about Wirt, as a main character. Here's why I think you don't connect with him like you connect with other main characters. It is his insecurity. Like you like determined main characters who know what they're doing. I'm not saying that like you're only into like shonen protagonists or anything, but you like people with more determination. Like
There's a track record. Yeah.
Yep. Wirt is like, it's been a long time since any of us were insecure teenagers, but
and he is a reluctant protagonist.
He is a reluctant protagonist. He is an insecure, like artsy, like introverted kid who like is just starting his ascent into like not only adulthood but also like manhood, and because of that, like he is so confused about everything that he's feeling. He's obviously got that like tumultuous, like not like fully like tumultuous home life, but like adjusting to the new. And I think that's what a lot of the themes are within this show is being able to confront like the need to grow up, being able to confront like what it feels like to become more mature, and to have all these scary nebulous things in front of you. Like when you finally shine a light on those, it's not as scary as it may have seemed. It's just anything in the dark is so much scarier than anything in the light can be, because what's in the dark could be anything and you just don't know about it. And I think like that makes a lot of sense for his internal conflict. I do agree. I think that the focus on like Sarah and like having a crush and everything, when you're a high school boy, like 8th, 9th grade, like early on, like those first feelings of your first pangs of like beyond childhood crush, but like real like feelings of attraction are so intense that it becomes like the only thing. I think they focus on that because that feeling is so much more universal and understandable versus like the feeling of your new non-traditional home and having responsibility thrust on you is a little less tangible. But I think how he accesses that is more through action versus through dialogue or through like story and everything. Like he learns to take the responsibility of like his younger brother and like put his own skin on the game here instead of like running away. And they do backload that a little too much, but I think there is a resolution there, even if it's not as like prominent as we'd like it to be overall. Like, and I think this whole thing is like Gregory is a very static character. Wirt is a very dynamic character. Like, and just all the themes are focused more so on Wirt, which like is a lot for one character to carry. You know, like it's a lot for him to be dealing with, especially when he's written to be an Elijah Wood character. It's the same complaints that a lot of people have about like Elijah Wood's Frodo in Lord of the Rings and anything, like because he's not as like active as like he is in the book and everything, or a little bit more vulnerable here and there. But that's just what I was thinking, like when Kaylie was talking. Like,
which there is some resolution, and there's some really nice like showing without telling relationship and resolution building between him and Gregory over the course of the series, which I think absolutely, like, you don't have to dialogue everything, but maybe I'm spoiled now because we have blame the family slight trauma and disagreement in me for going, but damn, we could like, it sounds like there's so much hung up on this that hasn't been resolved, where exactly you're right. It's not as universal. And at the time, oh gosh, Brave, which had just come out 2 years prior, was, even if it wasn't liked by many people, it was still heralded as being a major piece of animation dealing into like family trauma and patching a relationship with a mother-daughter character, whereas usually it's a love interest. It's a journey of self-exploration, coming of age, and that was like one of the first major things to pave the way for all of the family trauma stories we have like coming out every other year now. So maybe I've just spoiled at this point.
I feel like the era they chose for like the real world is why it isn't there, because this like in episode 9 and at the end of the finale, you see that this is coded as more than likely like a 90s like world. When you think about the technology, the fashion that they see there, in a lot of 90s kids media.
Technology and fashion. It's a tape player and it's Halloween. Everybody's in costumes.
Yeah, but like when you look at like the design of like the jackets or like the cars that you briefly see in there, like, look, maybe it's just my theorizing here and there, but like aesthetically, I feel like it's supposed to be set like in like the 90s, like transitioning away from the 80s. And in a lot of children's media, there's not a whole lot of like adults figuring and like kids figuring out the like generational trauma and everything. Like that era is of like, adults are lame. Like in the real world, like not in the purgatory world of the unknown, but in the real world, we don't see any adults whatsoever. Like at most
Charlie Brown shit.
Yeah, you hear the cops. Like that's
just
at
kidding.
most.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, just like the cops razzing some kids, basically like college kids or whatever. Like I feel like one, it might be a little complicated for like the audience it's aimed at. That's not like to say you shouldn't try, but it might have gone like into the thinking there. And two, like I think that's kind of the style that they were going for, more of figuring out like,
that, like
their own personal
nostalgic,
relationships.
Like Halloween is a nostalgic time as far as media. So there's a lot of like, I think I also read late 80s, early 90s into that because of things like Halloween Town or Hocus Pocus, where it's a like, this is a generic New Englandish looking suburb at Halloween. And yeah, like we play with the like 90s kind of like boxy style of our cars and houses to just sort of delineate enough information, but we're focusing on the kids.
Yeah. Like the other thing, just talking about kind of like what is and isn't real. I know that Bo, you are the person who hates vague storytelling the most.
That's me, baby.
And I respect that. And in
Get to your point.
and in most cases, I would agree with you. But I feel like when you have a setting that's as ethereal as something like this, like I almost prefer that they don't explain everything. That's just a personal taste. Like I like leaving a little bit of mystery to be able to say, like
I would argue that they over explained it.
Oh, that's
because
fair.
I never expected to see quote unquote the real world. I thought it was going to be encapsulated in this weird fantasy world, and then they were going to, hey, we're going home, or we're walking off into the sunset, still continuing our journey.
This is my personal feeling. I do think that like what's implied is that the unknown is real, and that it's not just a dream like the original Alice in Wonderland. I feel like it's more of like, you know, an afterlife situation that is like presented as true to the audience, because like you'll see snippets here and there in the details, like in the graveyard, like they pass Quincy Endicott's grave at one point or another, which by the way, that might be my favorite episode, because Quincy Endicott is just Ian as an old man. Like,
I was gonna say he's just like Pops from a regular show with way too much money and gone even crazier.
Just a little bit. I like that silly episode with like just a little bit of tension to it. I very much might be my favorite. But anyway, like I like that, like the aesthetic choices that they make present like the world as it is, with like the unknown being, you know, a place that drifts between different eras, like your 1890s with the schoolhouse episode, like your earlier agricultural era with the like pumpkin harvest episode. Like I like that they are willing to like weave across space and time while still saying like, oh yeah, you're dead, you're dying, and when you start to give up your will, this is when like the evil spirits like can come manipulate you more here and there. Like there's just so much that I like about it, and like I personally think that it's both a quality and a good story, like as we presented, and you guys don't have to like agree with that, like, and that's totally cool. And I know, and I love you all the same, because this is who we are. But I personally, this is what I look for in what I call good art, because I catch on to like the themes that you're trying to build, as well as like form a connection with like the characters on this. I'd say it's more a character driven story than a plot driven story. Like, which like I typically like to have the clear cut plot of like the ticking time bomb and everything. But there's just something about the way everything's woven together with this tale that I'm willing to concede some of my preferences, just to be like, yes, this is good. This is what we like. Give me the fall. Pour it into a hot chocolate cup and throw it in my face. I need it.
But I think I have like, what am I trying to say? I think you're right about like it being a very good thematically cohesive story, because I remember the first time I watched it, it felt very all over the place because of the different styles and like how it felt like we're trying to drive one plot forward while at the same time feeling like a serialized narrative where every episode's a different place, different deal, different something's going on, and yet they are still moving towards trying to go home and escape the beast. But this time around, I think it is such an interesting thematic exploration of how do we understand and where is it present of death
Yeah.
Like, the first episode exactly leaves you with a lot of questions about where and how are we. Second one is the like, oh God, we're digging our own graves. No, we're bringing the skeletons to the party and like so on and so forth, that like everything somehow revolves around this idea of, are we dead, and what does that mean to be dead or on the verge of death, and what matters in the face of that.
It's moving on from childhood without giving into the despair of, a penultimate ending, like it's being able to say like, this is new and different and scary and I'm uncomfortable, but I am not going to give up because there's people that need me, and like I need to be able to press on and everything, which like might be reading into a silly cartoon a little bit too much here and there.
Maybe a little, but
hey man, once you realize that life's just potatoes and molasses, what more do you need?
Potatoes and molasses. It's the only thing left on your task list. They're short and stout to make everyone shout for potatoes and molasses.
That's one of those foods that like Tumblr with Doctor Who was super into fish fingers and custard, and I did try that, and it wasn't half bad. But
Kaylie, you're almost as bad as the
molasses.
Onceler fuckers. You're almost as bad as the Cypher fuckers. God damn.
Don't group me in with them.
Oh, too late.
Ew.
You listened to Tumblr on an idea.
At all, yeah.
God.
Jesus.
I didn't go to DashCon though, so you can thank me for saving myself from that.
I won't.
That's a low bar, Kaylie. That's a low fucking bar.
I know people who went though.
And that's why we're ashamed of you.
And they got lost in the ball pit, never to be seen again.
Almost.
May they reblog in heaven.
Last thoughts. Kaylie, go for it.
No, definitely, for as much as Bodio and I here have fought Gibby a little bit on it, definitely if you've not watched Over the Garden Wall, it's the perfect time of year to start watching it.
Soon as Labor Day's over.
Yeah, basically, as soon as you see a red or a yellow leaf outside, put it on. Yeah. It's time. No, it is artistically gorgeous, a very fun, vague narrative, which we don't see a lot in cartoons today. There's a lot of, we have to tell you how this story starts, where it's going, how it ends, and there's a lot of really nice ways to read into this as an experience. So definitely go check it out. If you have not already. What are you doing here? It's an hour long. Go.
This episode's going to be longer than the whole series.
I mean, we're cutting close. I'll go next and let Gibby have the last word.
Yay.
I do think this is like a very high quality series, and I think it's worth the watch.
Yeah.
Like it's a fun time. It's fun to watch. But
there's a lot of great voice actors. I forgot to mention there's so many great voice acting cameos in this show. Like, I didn't know until I went to the wiki and looked it up. Tim Curry is Auntie Whispers.
That's why you were uncomfortable.
Like, maybe a little. But yeah, Christopher Lloyd, Tim Curry, Elijah Wood, a lot of fantastic cast in this. Sorry, Bo, finish.
Yeah, no. That said, I'll give them credit for... There's the funniest line in the entire series is one of the last ones where the narrator says, and that's the end, that everybody's happy, everybody's satisfied with the ending. I was like, all right, you got me.
And so
you got
on
me.
and
You
so
knew what I was
forth, yada,
thinking.
yada, yada. Get back to the song.
That said, if at any point in your story you say it was all a dream, and that's not immediately followed by, I used to read Word Up magazine. Little Biggie Smalls for y'all.
Salt and pepper with the heavy cream in the limousine.
If at any point you say it was all a dream, I'm immediately angry.
You heard it here first. Bo hates Super Mario 2.
I do. I think it's a waste of time. It's really stupid when you finish. It's really stupid when you finish the game and then it's like, and it was all Mario's dream. Like, why am I here? What was
because
I doing?
Nintendo stole a game and reskinned it.
They made
No.
Doki Doki Panic.
How could they?
Did they make Doki Doki Panic?
They did make Doki Doki Panic.
Well, they reskinned
They stole
it.
their own game.
They
Yeah.
fucking like Hannibal Lectered a game.
They did. But I do think this is a show of high quality, and like it's very easy to watch, and it's super easy to enjoy.
Gibby.
It's easier to understand than Elden Ring, I'll tell you that. Because Wart doesn't come out at the end just like, actually, my name was Wart the whole time.
Actually, my name was Bort.
Come along, Bort. Yeah, I love it. There's something about it that I just personally connect with wholeheartedly. If you're somebody like me whose favorite holiday is Halloween, then this is a show that I think that you will enjoy. It's an hour and 10 minutes long. It's high quality, and I like a show that can trust its audience to come along on the journey without having to explain every single one of its mysteries, especially when that's a show for originally designed more for kids. And I just love animation as a medium, and I love that we're in a state and time where animation isn't just to sell Transformers. Because I had a lot of fucking Transformers, I'll just say.
But they're
that.
more than meets the eye, Gibby.
I have so many fucking Transformers, Bo. I know, but I want more than just plastic that changes to a spaceship. Sometimes a man needs more.
How dare.
More plastic.
More plastic.
Get more figures. More Transformers.
Oh, God damn it. Are we going to have a Transformers episode where we just do transformation?
No, we're not doing anything related to Transformers.
But they're robots in disguise.
And they can stay disguised for all I fucking care. This has been this episode of the Liberal Artist Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like what you're hearing, give us all the stars. Follow us on the Twitters at Lib Artist Pod. Just say what's up. Say hey. Say hello. Join us next time when we throw Gibby into a river and see if he has a journey of self-actualization.
It's just like my Japanese animes.
Oh, God. We're going to isekai the boy.
Peace.
The Liberal Artists Podcast premieres every other Thursday on your favorite podcasting platform. The show is hosted by Bodio, Kaylie Horowitz, and Andy Gibson. You can find the show at LibArtistsPod on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks to Whitehot for performing the theme song Reflect, which can be found on freebeats.io. Now, I'm off to go exploring, and maybe, just maybe, I'll find a sheep that I can call my own. Good day.
Join us next time when we become a transformed amalgamation
No. That is not
some
the
kind
ending.
of spaceship.
No.
We are not doing the fucking fusion
We turn
dance.
ourselves into a spaceship.
I'll make that the
Absolutely
stinger, but no, the ending is Bo's domain. He starts and he ends.
I know.
This
I
is
had to
his
get the joke out
territory.
before I forgot. I knew Bo wasn't going to touch it, which is why I had to get the joke out.
Yeah, sure. Okay, please, Bo. Please save us.